Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Turin here with another Warhammer Total War commentary. This is an online ranked battle. I've been playing quite a bit. I think I'm ranked around 450, 475 on the ladder. To be honest, I don't know if that's good. Not too familiar with the competitive scene, but anyways, let's get right into this. So, going to put it in slow motion here real quick while we go over the quick army composition. I'll get you some nice scenic shots of the orcs rolling out. My front line, I got 3 units of Orc Biggins. Typically, that's my standard build for front line, followed up by 3 units of Black Orcs. So I really like the Black Orcs. Again, I use them in auxiliary, just let the kind of the fodder in the front. Not to say Biggins aren't necessarily fodder per se. They're fairly strong infantry, but I use them to take the brunt and then plug the Black Orcs in as needed. Definitely a big fan of those guys. In the back, I got some Error Boys. They're not the most cost-effective archers, but again, I always like to have them just for utility, regardless of the circumstances of the game. In the far outside here, I got Orc Boy Biggins. I have one group there and one group there as well. And of course, what Orc army isn't complete without Azhag the Slaughterer? Definitely awesome. He's got the whole Lore of Death kit. He's mobile, fairly strong in melee. Really like him as a general. Anyways, we go over here to our friendly neighborhood dwarves who have a line of dwarf warriors. They have some long beards here in the front, dwarf warriors on the far end there. As you can see, they're getting some visitors from my lovely goblins. So, always a good time. And then back here, they have some quarrelers. I don't believe they have any handgunners or gunpowder tech there, aside from these cannons. And then in the back, they got some hammerers. So obviously, they're higher tier infantry. Kind of similar to what I'm doing, I believe, where you're going to hold them in reserve and kind of bring them in as needed. Then, of course, he has a runesmith, and he's got Ungrim here. And out on the sides, I believe he has some gyrocopters. Not terribly sold on them. It's really fun to micro the bombs, but I guess I've seen games where they've been effective. But honestly, I think he could have just done with some more meat in his army rather than investing in these guys. So, anyways, let's let the games begin. So we start here. I'm just moving up my troops. Standard approach again. He had the cannons. I did have some Doom Diver catapults. I actually had quite a bit. I think I brought 4 units. Against dwarves, I really like this because you can kind of crack the turtle and force them to advance on you. So I'm focusing down his cannons, and I think I'm hitting the longbeards in the process, which is good. So I kind of just post up. I feel as if I have the advantage in regards to the siege. So I'm just kind of going to fly over here with Azhag and just, gets the Fata Biuna on these longbeards, get some harass. His quarrelers aren't doing a lot of damage, so I feel this is just, taking advantage of the dwarf's lack of mobility. And in the meantime, I'm positioning my Orc Boar Biggins out in the flanks. Again, he's focusing here. It allows me to just pull these guys around. And to be honest, I can definitely take advantage of his lack of mobility here. So, again, these Doom Divers still just coming in, just putting in work on these cannons. And you can see he starts to move the hammers. They're getting caught because they were targeting these, but they were missing. So, pretty funny stuff. But I'll fast forward here. Again, it's just mostly Doom Divers coming in and doing some pretty decent damage against these cannons. I think we trade for a little while, and he decides to bring over the gyrocopters. I think he was going to try and harass my cannons. So I bring back some Error Boys, and I keep a group of Orc Boars in case they try and land. I just wanted to be on standby. So I just take some pot shots of these guys. Definitely not what he wants to be doing. They are a fairly expensive unit, but again, the Error Boys, not the most accurate, I suppose, and not a terrible amount of damage. But hey, at least they're they're dissuading them from attacking. So I think he actually comes in here and lands. I can't recall. Regardless, the main line's moving up here. I get a Fata Biuna. I like to really just focus down a single unit with that and just kind of crumble the unit as a whole. And I figured, shooting at the cannons was kind of a waste. So then I start targeting his quarrelers over here and start doing a ton of damage. They're just getting in there and freaking burying those guys. So that kind of softens up his flanks, and I feel like he's stressing a lot about these Orc Boar Boys back there. So front line, just going down as expected. The Biggins coming in. I think they have quite a bit of an advantage, not necessarily against the Longbeards, but against the Dwarf Warriors. And the Black Orcs, I have them posted up here. This unit of Black Orcs, I actually swing around. Because these guys will hold pretty well, especially against this Dwarf Warrior flank, which, they're not the strongest of units. So I come in with Azhag. I get a nice battle cry and a leadership boost. And again, he's inspiring terror. These guys are already wavering, and these are the guys that I'd focused the Fata Biuna. So he brings in his runesmith here to reinforce his troops, but it's kind of late for that part of the front line. So at that same point, I kind of just ran circles, and his hammers, he had a direct path, so they weren't able to keep up. So I got the Orc Boar Biggins in here, really laid a smackdown. I think he does get a few of them with these hammers. I didn't pull them out quite quick enough. I was focusing on something on the front line, but they still got in there and disabled most of those cannons, and they're doing quite a bit of work. So as far as the front line goes, I did make the mistake of probably keeping these guys back there for too long. So I bring them up. I think these arrow boys actually chased off these gyrocopters. He was really focused on microing his back line. So these orc boar biggins, boy biggins are coming back. And again, the front line's going pretty well. I got the black orcs just hammering on these dwarf warriors out here. I did have some routing here. Again, they took the initial brunt of some hammers and longbeards, so I just filled it in with the black orcs. Oh, that guy went flying. So I filled it in with black orcs who are doing pretty well, and of course I still got Azhag in here with the orc boars who I pulled from the back lines. So it's going pretty well. I mean, he has a fairly strong central, kind of melee force here, but again on the flanks he's having a bit of trouble. Black orcs are taking out those dwarf warriors, and over here these hammerers with Azhag and these biggins and these black orcs they're doing real well. So I do have some routing. The initial front line as well as the orc boar biggins that I sent in, orc boy biggins, tongue twister. They're starting to rout, but I do bring these arrow boys who I think took some damage from the gyrocopters back there, bringing them up, and I think the doom divers are still shooting. At least two of them are. So and again, his cannons have kind of been run over by my cavalry here. So I do have that advantage now. Those guys will be shooting the rest of the game, and I forget what I was shooting at. I think I was shooting at his back line here. So yeah, they're getting in there, and not only is they're going to take a leadership hit from being attacked by artillery, but they're also being run over by these guys, and it looks like my guys are the ones routing though. Classic. So yeah, essentially, I mean, his line is just this center focal point of some. I think he had some longbeards and a few hammers trickling around, but other than that, his flank had collapsed. I think the black orcs coming around the outside really did quite a bit of work, because they came around the back and then crushed that left flank, and then that was right where the Fate of Buna had really done a ton of damage. So right now this is classic Ungrim here, just running around trying to be useful. I didn't Spirit Leech spam him. I'm not a fan of doing that. I will do it against other factions, but against the Dwarves I like to play kind of a longer game and just have more fun with it. I suppose if I was in a really competitive game I would do it, or some sort of a tournament of some sorts. But here you can see Ungrim. He's getting in there and chasing off the arrow boys. They're steady, surprisingly, despite the circumstances here. But I'm just kind of kiting them, figuring, hey, I need to win the battles elsewhere. So here I got some biggins, just fighting his longbeards. It's kind of the last pocket of strength he has. I have some black orcs who had previously, I believe, routed, but they had come back from rout, and I'm also he's kind of just chasing me with these hammers. And at this point, I got some more magic, winds of magic from Fate of Buna, and kind of just kiting them out and cycle charging them. I believe I just keep coming in here, and then of course these units all come back from rout, but you can see how low everything is. It's really a atrocious battle. So I get a nice charge with my general who's full health. The boars come in here, they're wavering. I mean, despite their high leadership, there's only so much they can take, and cycle charging is really, really good against the dwarves. So again, they're broken at this point, and I believe I just chase them down with these guys and kind of keep them from coming back. So at this point, he's got some dwarf warriors over here, a really small contingency, and then of course he's got his little posse over here. He's got some longbeards as well as his runesmith, who's in pretty good health, and he also has Ungrim just chasing these guys down, putting in some work. Gotta appreciate that. So I'll fast forward a little bit here. So he gets these gyrocopters back, and I think he tries to come in and harass my doom divers, who are out of ammo regardless. So they're kind of just doing their thing. They're actually broken, so that's fine. I'm not stressing it. They paid their dues. They did a great job. So these arrow boys, I'm bringing them back. I'm just going to try and take advantage of how slow these guys are and tag them down. But look how tattered the rest of my army is. I got these black orcs. They got 17 units there and some orc boar biggins. But my big strength here is that I have Azhag as well. So I was just making sure those guys were shattered before I flew them back. Because when in these really tight battles, you really have to make sure to chase off units, because it can make or break the game if units come back from rout. So at this point, we kind of both had regrouped our forces, and you see I'm even dragging my catapults over here. I think they're out of ammunition, but regardless, I bring them back and I reform my ranks. But I was actually kind of concerned because Ungrim is a force to be reckoned with. He's full health. He has some longbeards, which are fairly strong units, and his runesmith is also still in good health. So he's got two pretty healthy hero units, as well as a very, very powerful dwarf infantry unit. So he's coming back here this way, fast forward a little bit. It can be a little tedious sometimes. But it's kind of cool. I really like when battles end like this and just kind of a final apocalyptic showdown after a long battle. If you look at the meter bar, I have 159 to his 52. Surprisingly, it's fairly close, so it just shows the substantive power of what he does have left. So I get, a few volleys with the arrow boys, and I slowly start to advance on him here. I think I even brought the little goblins up to get them in the business, but he realizes that it's a losing game for him to just stand there and trade. So he flies in his gyrocopters, and I immediately, I think I pull Azhag to get the gyrocopters. I can't remember, but no, I actually wait and get these guys, which is probably better. So it's just the charge here. Ungrim gets in there, but he did take a bit of damage. I think it may have been from Azhag's charge. The Wah, 58 melee attacks all my units in conjunction with the leadership. It's a melee defense. So these big-ins are doing pretty good against the Longbeards. And then also these Black Orcs, they just broke. Obviously, Ungrim is a force to be reckoned with, but Azhag's in pretty good health. But again, I didn't necessarily want to stand and just trade blows, so I did rout his Longbeards, and I did not want those guys coming back. So I just chased them, try and get them shattered. He's still got his gyrocopters up here, but thankfully my cavalry were able to come back in, get a nice little charge there, which was definitely valuable. I think he had his rune going on. Yeah, the rune of I'm trying to read it here, something of iron. But anyways, it gives them pretty decent combat stats. But thankfully, I had enough units that they kept like cycling in and out of routing, so I was able to bring them back. But definitely a very close battle here to the end. It was definitely a lot of fun. You don't see a lot of dwarves in the higher ladder. It's a very hard faction to play for sure. So when people are able to pull it off, and do well, it's always awesome to see. So yeah, we got us around here. This is how so many dwarf battles end with Ungrim surrounded. But he did pretty good, and it was definitely a great fight. So good game there. So let me see. Let's on replay here. We can look at some post-battle stats. So Azhag did pretty well. I mean, those are his kills, aside from the damage he caused with the Fate of Buna and his mobility and chasing down and shattering units. The big ones all did pretty well. The Black Orcs did well. I don't know what happened to this group of Black Orcs. They must have just taken a pounding from something, maybe the cannons or something. Maybe that's where Ungrim had initially started out, but man, they just got pounded. Orc Arrow Boys did surprisingly well. Those stats are deceiving because they did quite a bit of damage to these gyrocopters, which was definitely awesome. Then you got my cavalry, which were just MVPs. They swung around. They got the cannons. They were cycle charging pertinent units. He had that group of hammers who was pretty healthy, and it just kept cycle charging them. And again, I love these Doom Divers. They're guided. They're fairly accurate. It kind of busted his siege, forced him out of position. They were just great. It occupied his gyrocopters, and it was very cost effective. So a good game to King Jinax II. It was a lot of fun. I look forward to playing you again on ladder, and stay tuned. I'll have a lot more commentaries coming this next week. Thanks, guys.